APG circuit is the favorite out of all the tracks I've been to so far. It's a stone throw away from Fuji Speedway, and it's right at the base of Mount Fuji, which decides to overlook the track throughout the day after the clouds clear. This event, I'm also racing in the Masters class. I was in the Masters class last time. Last time we had 9 people sign up. This time we have 13, so there's a little bit more competition. Last time I was also handling an engine setting issue, which I was down on power come race day. I figured that out, so there's no reason why I shouldn't be more competitive this race. My layout for this weekend was to fly into Tokyo on Thursday, get to the track in the late afternoon. We started to put the cart together after shipping it on a boat because it is coming from Okinawa. Friday is a practice day. It's not the official practice day. I think we had 7 entire sessions to kind of dial in the cart. One of the later sessions, it started to rain and we were on the dry tire. Ended up putting the cart straight into some barriers that did some damage. We had to replace the steering column and align the cart on Saturday morning. Shout out to Akasuka Racing for that. They're the only other team on grid that runs the Techno chassis, so they are pretty much the part supplier for me throughout the weekend. Thank you to them. But anyways, let's get into the time trial. So starting the qualifying, or time trial as they call it, on the new Mojo D2 tires. I want to drive 2 or 3 laps at around 80% effort to bring them in a nice window, and they're fired up. Right there, the Japanese flag is the signal that the qualifying has started, so these laps from now on actually mean something. We're going to speed it up. So the cart in front of me is the 69 cart, and the cart in front of him is the 16 cart. The 16 cart was just a little bit slower of a pace throughout this qualifying, and right here he decides to let 69 cart through, which, hey, that's cool, whatever. And I got up to the back of his bumper. I thought he was going to leave a gap, and I just wasn't confident enough to send it down the inside right there, so I slow down, abort this lap, and try to have clean air for the next lap. So that's maybe a 2-second gap, which should be plenty. But so that lap was a 40.3. I don't think the tires were fired up. I don't think they were in the grip window yet. So we're going to do another flying lap. But I do feel like I'm a little too close to 16 at the pace that we were catching him earlier. But this lap ended up being faster and ended with, I think, a 40.0. Yeah, this lap was a 40.0, which starts the next lap, and the gap then is definitely too close to 16. Because by the end of this lap, not even by the end, but by halfway through the lap, I'm right on his bumper and kind of just slowing down. I didn't look back to see if anybody was behind me. I didn't want to hinder anybody else's lap. At one point throughout this lap, I even tagged the rear bumper of his because he was going so slow through the corner. Now that 40.0 lap will be our fastest lap of that session. We ended up qualifying P5, and the gap for the first 5 or 6 is actually pretty small. And maybe even call it... Actually, the gap between everybody's pretty small. So P1 with a 39.86, P2 with 39.9, yada yada. I'm quite confident that if I didn't make that small mistake on either 3 or 4 of my fastest lap, that I could have qualified even higher. That definitely cost me a 10th or 2 the slide. But it is what it is. That's racing. Make mistakes. So for the heat race, we will be starting P5. With my spin in the heat race putting me in 11th position, we have a lot of work to do for this main race. Qualifying P5 and making that mistake in the heat race I was quite frustrated, but let's just get on to the main race. Alright, so we have a clean start. We're going to open up turn 1 for myself, and we end up opening the door for the guy behind me, and we end up losing 2 positions, so we already screwed up the start. A couple corners later, we're able to pick up 2 positions because a couple of carts got into an incident and they ended up spinning out. So we are back where we started. Now 27 and 51, I know they are a bit of a slower pace than me. Just kind of following them through the corners and even watching them in qualifying as I make a mistake right there going into turn 1. Yeah. And 27 even has a big checkup right there, and I have to take avoiding action because I really do not want a bumper penalty, especially since I'm all the way back here. There's no reason for that. Next lap, 27 makes a move on 51, and I'm thinking now I'm going to make a move on 51, but I can't do that because this guy's here with his hand up, going slow on the outside of this entry. So 51 looks for another corner. As I was saying before, these guys' mid-corner speed is definitely slower than mine. I'm really coasting behind these guys, and while this is happening, the front 6 carts or so are pulling away. So I really do not want that to happen. I'm getting kind of desperate at this point, but I don't want to do anything malicious, as 51 kind of has a moment and we can pull a move around the outside there. So now we have 27 in our sights. We are right up on his rear bumper. He has a like little cheeky look back. That arrow was showing the current gap to the guys in front. And going into this corner, 27 misses the apex by quite a bit, and that really opens up the door for us. Now as soon as I make that move, it's kind of like a breath of relief, as there's the gap again. Let's throw a timer up. Yeah, maybe 3 seconds. We'll call the gap at this moment 3 seconds. Now I have my sights on the front group, and I don't know what kind of pace they're running, but throughout these next few laps, I just kept closing in faster and faster, building up my confidence. I was happy with the way the kart was driving. Another kart has an issue, and that promotes us up to P7, so that's plus 4 positions from where we started. So far really good. Now the gap is at 1.6 seconds, I think, a few laps later, and my confidence is really building throughout this race. I did have a few moments where the rear end was bouncing quite a bit and I would lose it, and it'd probably take another 2/10 or so from my lap time. But we just continued to close the gap down, and it was quite funny seeing Onaka-san and Ray kind of cheer me on the wall near the entry of turn 1. I really enjoyed that a lot. But as we get into, I believe, yes, this is the final lap, I'm really just got my head down, and you never know what's going to happen. So many penalties happen during these races, so every second, every half second counts. A half second can relegate you up maybe a couple positions. Not relegate, but promote you up a couple positions. Coming up on the end of the final lap, we're P7, and the gap is probably less than a second now. So, sucks that this is the final lap. There's no way I can make a move through there. Thank you to my amazing girlfriend for filming on the outside. Shout out to her. Yeah, and I really felt like I drove everything out of that kart. I was kind of exhausted after that because I was so excited and my heart was racing, and we really had the adrenaline rush going. But maybe a few more laps we could have got on the podium, because a couple penalties in front of us had us promoting up to P5, and we were able to finish top 5 for this race. Like I said, maybe a few more laps we could have got onto the podium, which would be really cool because I wanted to come out of this with a trophy, but I made it difficult for myself early on, and try to work on that next time and get better at the starts, maybe even qualifying, because I could have got faster time qualifying. But anyways, thanks for watching. We wrapped up the season in Okinawa, so stay tuned for the next race, which will be February 1st. See ya.